On August 21st, 2021, I backpacked the Lost Creek Wilderness Loop, located in the Lost Creek Wilderness Pike National Forest, Colorado, USA. Hiking stats were 32.4 miles with 5,558 feet of total elevation gain. I started this hike at the Lost Creek Campground. Access to this trailhead is from US Highway 285, driving down a 19-mile dirt road that is in pretty decent shape. My Toyota Corolla had no problems going on the road at 20 to 30 miles an hour. The loop that I did is the most popular one, but there are other options to extend the hike in Lost Creek Wilderness or even shorten it. The route that I took was counterclockwise to the Brookside McCurdy Trail, number 607, to the McCurdy Park Trail, 628, to the Goose Creek Trail, number 612, to the Wigwam Trail, number 609, heading west back to the Lost Creek Campground. Reasons that I like this hike: it's a loop. I really love loops over out and backs. It's just easier to hike mentally when you start to break down physically when you're seeing something new every step that you take. There was a wide variety of terrain, trees, plants, and even some wildflowers left here late in August. Although I didn't see a ton of wildlife besides a wide variety of bird species, I did hear some elk bugling early in the morning. Even though it's a popular backpacking trail, there were several instances where I went miles without seeing anybody. And most of my encounters with hikers were the hikers that we kept passing each other, and then I would pass them, they would pass me, and it was vice versa for a while. Other than that, tons of serenity, no cell phone service. You can be completely unplugged out here. It's just a great feeling knowing that you're kind of away from civilization. My favorite part of this hike was between mile 5 and mile 16, going counterclockwise. The hike up to Bison Peak was amazing. Even though all the scenery was covered in fog, I still loved all the rock formations that I got to see above 10,000 feet. The rock formations get even more sick. There's also short hikes through dense aspen groves, a beautiful hike down into a canyon with a couple of creek crossings, particularly the one at about mile 15, 16. That one was kind of fun. Talking about creek crossings, there's a lot of them on this trail. The main one is at about mile 15 or 16. There is a log there that you can walk across at the time of this review. I chose just to wade across the river as I have a lot of camera gear and I don't want to fall off and fall the wrong way and soak all my camera gear. Depending on how much it rained the prior day or the day of, or a flash flood, I could see some of these creek crossings can be maybe a little sketchy to cross. At the end of the trail, there were some meadows that it was no way that I could keep my feet dry. I was just walking through mud and water. Doesn't matter which way you take, you're supposed to stay on trail anyway according to the wilderness rules. This is another reason why I liked hiking this counterclockwise versus the other way first, because you're not starting out with wet feet. You're ending with wet feet, which isn't as bad. Overall trail conditions, the trails are greatly marked. The signage is awesome. Most of it is gravel. Besides a couple of creek crossings and a couple of muddy meadows, it's a very smooth hike. Definitely have your log balancing skills in full force when doing this hike, because you'll need them. Backpacking in the Lost Creek Wilderness. Here are some tips that I want to share with you and hopefully will help you if you plan on doing this loop. Recommend a water filtration system. 30 miles is quite a long ways. There's plenty of water sources along the trail. Be aware though that there are certain spots where there are not going to be any water sources. I think I went 6 or 7 miles without seeing or hearing any water. There was also a couple of water sources, but the creeks were running pretty dry, so don't rely on past water source reviews or trip reports. When you see water, fill up while you can, because you may not get any more for a while. This is a wilderness. This is bear country. You gotta bear-proof your food. Don't eat food near your tent. Don't keep food near your tent. I use an Ursack that hangs in a tree. You could also use a bear canister. You just want to store your food in something that is scent-proof, to where animals and even rodents cannot get to your food and steal it at night when you're sleeping. Check the Pike National Forest website for current fire bans. There was high fire danger when I hiked this trail, but they recommend that you use existing fire rings and don't start fires when it's windy. Bring clothes for all weather conditions. When I started this hike out, it was foggy and windy, low 40s. After a couple hours, the sun came out. It was in the 70s. I was exposed to the sun, needed some sunscreen. And then at about 5 p.m., it started raining and thundering and lightning. And I had to pack up all my gear and put all my rainproof stuff on and had to keep the backpack and the contents inside of the backpack dry. I completed this hike in 2 days and 1 night. On average, from reading reviews, it seems like most people take 3 days and 2 nights to do this loop. There's plenty of campsites if you spread it out and do about 10 miles per day. As far as the campsites go, it is kind of dispersed camping. You have to fill out a permit at the start of the trail. I think it's about half mile from the Lost Creek campground, either direction. Fill out a permit, keep one part with you. On the northeast side of the trail, there was plenty of awesome campsites with lots of water access. Really enjoyed this hike in the Lost Creek Wilderness. Highly recommend doing this loop. It's one of the more popular backpacking loops in Colorado with good reason. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out the silent hiking video I made of doing the Lost Creek Wilderness Loop, which I tried my best to do justice to the beautiful scenery that you will see along this hike, but that's kind of hard to do with a camera. Until the next hike, I am Dave Spates, hiking, adventure, photography. I'm on mile number 20. The rain is going on and off, and I feel like I've been going uphill quite a bit. Gotta reach 10,000 feet, then I'll get to the lakes where the campsites are. Not sure where I'm at right now. Just gonna keep trucking along. Just gonna keep hiking.